What's up everybody, Rob here from the Basement Bike Shop, and in this video we're going to talk about some of the more common problems that people have with their U-brakes, whether it's an internal coil spring U-brake or an external like the Odyssey Springfield. This video is going to help you troubleshoot those problems and different solutions that I came up with to fix them. So let's get started. Now the most common problem that I see is you go to pull your lever and your brake lever doesn't return, or your brake arms themselves don't return. Now this could be a number of different problems, so we're going to go through them one by one. The first thing we're going to do is disconnect the straddle cable and also disconnect the cable up at the lever, and then slide the cable back and forth to make sure that it goes free. If the cable does not move freely, then we might need to replace the cable. There's usually a couple of different reasons why this happens. One reason is that when the cable is installed, especially if it's not a linear cable, it bends one of the metal coils in toward the cable. Now you can pull your inner cable out and check if that inner metal housing is bent in. And if it is, usually you can cut off a 1/4 inch and put the same cable back on and you're good to go. Otherwise, usually the cable is kinked somewhere, either in the middle or up by the lever. And then you either have to replace the housing or the whole cable. Usually I replace the whole cable because if the inner cable becomes kinked too, it's going to slide hard through your housing. If you need to install a new cable, you can check out my U-brake installation video, in which I go into depths about installing the cable. I'll put a link in the description. Now if the brake cable is fine, next we check the lever. Now usually this isn't the problem, but we want to rule it out. Make sure the brake lever moves freely. If it doesn't for some reason, either the bolt is too tight, not the one that bolts it to your handlebars, but the other one, or the lever is bent and might need to be replaced. Now if there's nothing wrong with the lever or the cable, next we move on to the brake unit itself. I do it in this order so I don't spend hours working on the brake when it was the cable the whole time. So I like to rule out the cable and the lever before I start messing with the brakes. So on U-brakes with coil springs, the first thing I'm going to do is check to make sure that when I push the brake in, it springs back. Now if one or both of the arms don't spring back, then I'll try to put a little more tension on that spring by loosening the Allen wrench, turning the brake pad away from the rim, and then tightening it back up, and then trying it. Now if you go to put tension on the spring with the wrench and it doesn't seem like you're putting any more tension, it's not getting harder to turn, and the brake's not working any better, then most likely you snapped your spring. Now if you can put tension and the spring is fine and the brake arm is still not moving freely, or you have a Springfield or one with an external spring and it's just one of them's not moving freely or both of them aren't, then most likely it's the brake arm catching on the brake post. We're going to remove the brakes and make sure that there's no extra paint from the factory, a burr on the inside of the brake or on the brake post itself, and we're going to sand that down or file it down if we need to. And we'll check periodically putting the brake arm on the post to see if it moves any smoother. And then we'll put a little bit of lube on those posts too when we reinstall. And those are pretty much all the techniques I use for almost all of the brake troubleshooting. So now as we talk about other problems like only one arm moves when I pull the brake lever, we're just going to be reviewing some of these other things that we've already done. So only one arm moves. We're going to try and put a little more tension on the spring on the side that doesn't move as much, or take a little tension off of the other side just so they're even. And if that doesn't work, or you have a Springfield or something else with an external spring, then you're going to sand or file
the post of the arm that's not moving freely. And I try the brake periodically to see if it's getting better.
So if I went over that too fast, if you have a Springfield or a different brake with an external spring, and your cable and your lever are fine, most likely you have some binding going on the post, and we go right to looking for that problem because you don't have a spring to adjust. And that about wraps it up for this video. Thanks for watching. Hope I could help your brakes work a lot better, bike runs smoother. If you like what I'm doing, hit that subscribe button and I'll keep these videos coming. If you have any questions or suggestions for future videos, you can leave a comment below or you can send me a message. Thanks a lot.